Hi everyone, this is Makai Costin with the athlete section. Today we have a special guest who plays basketball for Howard University, and I'll let him introduce himself.
How's it going, guys? I'm Cameron Shockley-Okeke. I'm a grad student at Howard University. I'm from Norwalk, Connecticut.
Previously played for Columbia University in his undergraduate years, so we're definitely going to get into all of that and his story and just everything in between. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
So tell me, I usually start off asking people about the beginning of their career or the beginning of their sport or love for the sport. But I kind of want to start with your graduate student. That's amazing. How is playing at a graduate level, and what are the differences and adjustments that you had to make mentally and physically when transitioning over to grad student?
That's a good question. Honestly, I would say it has a lot to deal with just managing my schedule. I would say my schedule is a lot different now in terms of the type of classes I have versus I had in undergrad. Undergrad, I felt like I had a bunch of like more classes, but shorter term. Now I have, longer classes, 3 hour classes that are usually in the evening. So I'm able to, get my basketball stuff done in the morning and then take care of my classes, in the afternoon and evening. So it's hasn't changed too much in terms of workload because the workload's still definitely there,
Yeah.
but it's just more so just structuring everything throughout the day.
Yeah. And would a different schedule change because it's like, like you said, the differences in it. Would you say it is harder or a little bit more difficult than undergrad, playing in undergrad and being having that experience? Or would you say it's a little bit more simpler or the same? How is that for you?
Yeah, I would say honestly for me it's a bit simpler just because my workload in undergrad was pretty hectic. I took a lot of courses and classes just because I had to fulfill my major and a bunch of other, prereqs for everything I was doing. Now I kind of have a more set schedule, less classes, but probably it's about the same amount of time, but the projects are longer, so it gives me more flexibility in how I want to create my schedule, which makes it, at least for in my opinion, simpler.
So, not to mention, you went to an Ivy League. So, how is that experience? First of all, getting accepted, finding out you're going to play basketball there, and then your just overall experience playing basketball there and managing schoolwork.
Let me think, 'cause that was a few years ago. So I initially was recruited by a few Ivy League schools. I remember correctly, it was Columbia and Yale that first reached out, but eventually I think all of them, almost all of them, eventually reached out and was in the process of recruiting me, and then I narrowed it down to Columbia and Dartmouth. So I took my official visits to Columbia. I think I took the Columbia one first and the Dartmouth one second, and eventually decided to go to Columbia. I had gone to grade school in New York City up until 10th grade before I went to prep school or boarding school. So I was, used to being in New York and it felt, a lot like pretty comfortable. I knew the city and everything. So that's kind of, that story. And then once I got there, my freshman fall it was pretty hectic. I'm not gonna lie. There was a huge adjustment there. I thought, I'd be ready for it because, I went to some pretty good schools growing up, but that adjustment from not just academics, but balancing academics, athletics, and social life or just extracurriculars. Everything it's definitely another level once you get to that point. So I was pre-med in at Columbia, so I majored in biology, minored in jazz studies, and then on top of that, had to do the core curriculum that they had there. So I was taking, I think, 6 classes and then figuring out how to play college basketball, doing all those practices and traveling. So that was definitely an experience that I had to adjust to. But once I was able to do that, it became much more enjoyable and much more manageable, I would say.
No, that's that's really neat. And I bet, yeah, the adjustment definitely happens, especially that first fall semester. You're like, oh, this is not what I expected it
Uh,
to be. Wow, so you applied to a lot of Ivy League schools. Was Ivy League always on your radar, or was it just something that you later found that you wanted to do?
think it started with my parents. My parents definitely, even how much I, enjoyed basketball and enjoyed sports, they wanted me to have an academic focus, especially when I headed into college. So, going to Ivy League school that's, Division 1 had, a good balance between athletics and academics was, I felt that I could definitely, thrive and succeed in that type of area. Funny enough, my dream school growing up was Stanford. And I took a visit there when I was,
Ooh.
I think, 14 or 15. Loved the campus and everything, but unfortunately they didn't recruit me. So I had some really good opportunities in the Ivy League, so I decided to go to Columbia.
Columbia has really great programs as well, and just a nice atmosphere from what I've seen. So that's really neat that you was able to experience that and continue your studies with that. And bio pre med is no joke. I My freshman year I started off as bio pre med, and let's just say I didn't graduate with that
There were
major
so
anymore.
many. I think
Um,
when I was a freshman, there was one class that all of us, I think it was general chemistry, something like that. There was a bunch of student athletes. Yeah.
that's
By
what
the
it
time I
was.
graduated, no one else, I think there was maybe two or three of us that were in that class made it to senior year. So even my roommate, who was on the basketball team as well, started out pre-med and then he went into architecture. So I don't know how I made it, but I found a
Oh
way.
my god, I definitely couldn't. I thought I really wanted to do it, but like you said, you have to have like a passion for it. You have
That's
to have
funny.
a knack for it. It has to be something that you're really interested in, and not just interested in, but it's something that you don't just like the thought of it, but something that you're ready to implement in your life and something that you're ready to go into. And that was for me, and I figured that out later. But yeah, chemistry did it for me.
I can imagine.
Man, I remember it like as yesterday.
I
Oh,
just
sorry, go
I could
ahead.
imagine though those classes definitely weren't easy. Our weed out class was biology, which everyone took their sophomore year, and our professor was just known for giving really difficult exams and making sure like if you could get through this class, then you'd be able to make it through. But she wanted to make sure like anyone who was kind of on the fence would be weeded out with that class. So that one took a lot of dedication and
Yeah.
effort and just reminding myself what the long term goal is. But yeah, I was able to make it through.
Yeah, no, keeping the long term goal in mind is definitely the key. Yeah, my chemistry teacher, first of all, he would give us a quiz before he taught the lesson. So I was like, wait a minute,
The order of
I don't know
operations is
what
just
to
messed
do.
up there.
Exactly. I was like, I don't even know where to start. And he'd be like, yeah, y'all should know this. Y'all should just be studying it. But I'm like, but we weren't taught this. And I remember this one girl out of nowhere, he's like ending the class and she was like, so how come you keep giving us quizzes before you even teach a lesson? Like, we don't understand this. And he was like, oh, do you guys prefer me to do it beforehand? I was like, yes, please.
Now, a funny story. So, it was freshman fall, and we had, I think, four, maybe five exams that term. And the first exam, I got my grade back and I didn't do as well as I wanted to. So I saw the score. I was like, this can't be right. Like I went to the professor. I was like, can you regrade this? I think I deserve some points here. He's like, no, this is your grade. And that turned out to be
Yeah, a little
what
oversight.
I think the best or second best like exam I got that term. So yeah, that was definitely a wake up call
Wow.
for me. It definitely helped, having a curve in that class and adjusting my study habits and all that. But yeah, that was something.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. I commend the people who stuck with it and could just really have that passion. Y'all are the real ones. Was getting recruited pretty easy when it came to looking into Ivy Leagues and then also just finding somewhere to continue your educational prowess, but also your athletic prowess as well?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was easy just because it was a very new process for me and my family. I think besides my uncle, none of my, family members or cousins, at least at the time, had gone and played Division 1 basketball or Division 1 anything for that matter. So going through that recruiting process, and figuring out, how to talk to coaches, which camps to go to, which travel teams to be on, figuring out, how to take, I think I took the ACT, so ACT prep, applying to colleges, all of that was very new to me. And I mean, it made it I would definitely say, it made it more manageable having the opportunity to play basketball and talking to college coaches who were, already been through that process, so they'd be able to help me out in terms of what I needed to do for my college apps and everything. But I'm just, remembering going through that process and just kind of figuring everything out, or my parents and I just figuring everything out as we kind of went along. So.
I can't even imagine. Are you the only child or do you have
So I have a
siblings?
little brother he's turning 7 this year. So when I went through that process, I was an only child. But once I graduated from high school, I got a
Yeah.
little baby brother. So now I'm a big bro.
Nice. Well, yeah, yeah. So especially as the firstborn, and at the time the only born, it's definitely because I'm the firstborn out of all my siblings. It's definitely something where it's kind of like you and your parents are going through it together and have to kind of figure everything out, like freshly new. Like if there's resources and stuff like that, but it's like just a whole new learning curve and adjustment you have to adjust to before even going to college. So it's like, yeah, I can't even imagine even just thinking about the Ivy League level and athletic level. Just I know that's a whole different ball game as well. So
I
wow, that's
appreciate
really neat
it.
though. How did it feel to when you found out that you're going to be an older brother? Was you pretty excited about? I mean, you seem pretty excited now, but was it something that you was like, wait a minute, was it a surprise or?
Was definitely a surprise just because, I've been an only child my whole life up until that point, and I loved it. You get all the attention from, grandparents, your parents, and everything. So it was more presents. But I think one thing that struck out to me was that it was a lot of responsibility on my side because I was 18 when my little brother was born. And, I knew it wouldn't just be, my parents raising him, but it would also be me as well. So I had to, learn how to change diapers and, figure out how to get him to stop crying and, just do a lot of things that at the time I wasn't, planning on figuring out until, sometime later in my life. But I'm definitely grateful for that experience. And, now he's 6 and 7 and he actually, lives pretty close to me on campus, so he's been to him and my parents have been to a bunch of games at Howard and been able to support me. And I always hear him in the stands. I always heard him in the stands when we were playing the season. So, no, it's a really cool and blessed experience. So I'm definitely grateful for it.
Yeah, that is definitely a blessing. Something that, you know, I feel like it's really nice to kind of experience that as you get older too, just watching like your little siblings grow. But I can't even imagine. Well, I guess I can kind of imagine it. I'm 20 years older than my youngest brother. I
Oh
have
my
eight
God.
little siblings. And yeah, it's crazy. And I'm the oldest, but I'm 20 years older than him. And I feel like my mindset when I was younger watching my little siblings is a lot different than it is now as I'm older watching them, kind of like readjusting my mindset to, okay, how they act and how to kind of like go about watching or being around them. So it's definitely an interesting mindset and process for someone who was the only child their whole life. And then all of a sudden has a
No,
kid
I'll be
brother.
honest. It took me maybe like a year and a half or so. If somebody would ask me, "Are you an only child?" I say, "Yeah," and then be like, "Oh wait, no, I have a little brother." And they'd be like, "How'd you
Wait
forget
a
your
minute.
sibling?" So there,
I forgot it.
right,
Just been a
right. So
minute.
that took a little while, but besides that, no, it was
Wow.
good.
So for your road to Howard, after finishing up Columbia, tell me about your decision in first of all deciding that you wanted to go to grad school and then you wanted to play in grad school. But then also, how was the road to Howard in general? Because you also went to Embry-Riddle University, I think, in between that time. So tell me about that whole like journey.
So my story with all of that actually started in high school. So when I was being recruited by Columbia, the assistant coach who was there my junior year of high school, I had a really good relationship with him. He gave me, I think, my first offer from Columbia, and I eventually, committed to him and the coaching staff there. And it wasn't until I think my senior spring where he got the job, head coaching job at Howard. So I actually never got to play under him. He started coaching at Howard, and we maintained good contact and everything. So I played, my 4 years at Howard, or excuse me, at Columbia, and then once I graduated, I still had 2 years left because I got hurt my senior year and COVID year we didn't play. So I had 2 extra years to play basketball, play college basketball, which I felt like I wanted to, continue doing. And didn't know where I was going to play that year after Columbia, but my grad assistant at Columbia had a connection with Embry-Riddle, actually, the program down in Daytona Beach, Florida, and got in contact with them. Didn't really know anything about the program or anything, but they offered me to go on a visit and check out the school. And I was like, you know what, a trip to Daytona Beach, Florida doesn't sound too bad during the spring. So went out there and actually just fell in love with it. So got there, got to meet the coaching staff, the players there. Just get a feel for the campus and just love the culture that they had there, the people that they brought into the program, and they were pretty, really solid basketball team too, and probably the best Division II basketball conference um, in Division II. So played there, had an amazing experience, met some great, wonderful people, and learned a lot. And then after that year ended, I was deciding on honestly three things: whether to transfer. stay there or, start playing pro. And I initially decided to stay. And it wasn't until my freshman roommate at Columbia committed to Howard, and I called him up, congratulated him, and kind of that's how it got started. Where I decided, or not decided, but talked to him about playing at Howard. So I got back in touch with the head coach who recruited me to Columbia, and yeah, took my visit there and eventually committed to Howard. So it was kind of full circle. I got to play with the coach who initially recruited me to play at Columbia. So it was definitely a whirlwind of events that led me to Howard. But I'm glad it happened like it did.
Yeah, like a whole journey down there. That definitely did work out. Nice full circle moment too, but that was very special to just live that moment for the first time and just feel like, okay, I'm in the right place. It's just all worked out really well for me. So that's really great. Also, the coaches at just doing a little research on you, the coaches at Embry Riddle spoke so highly of you and your character, your work ethic, instilled on and off the court, along with your efficiency and productivity, your organization. We kind of talked a little bit about organization before we started, but tell me a little bit about how that was instilled in you and how you can keep that up, I guess, for your future as well.
I mean, it's something I feel like I'm constantly working on. Uh, I don't know. I feel like that's something I've always kind of had to be on top of. Just I think even when I was growing up. So I lived in Connecticut but went to school in New York City. So I'd have to get up at 5 a.m., take the train with my mom who also worked in the city, and then from the train to the bus, and then from the bus walk to school, and then after classes and practice, go back home, and I'd either have practice for basketball or another team, sports team I was playing with, and then rinse and repeat, and do that again. So I had to be very mindful of
Oh,
my time and figure out, okay, I had 30 minutes or an hour or so to get my homework done at this time, so I had to do that. So it was always just stacking everything I had to do, and it kind of just helped me out once I got to college, and we're on road trips for games, and instead of playing video games with my teammates, I might have to finish a homework assignment, or I might have to go over some exam notes on the bus or something like that. So just making sure I had enough time to get everything that I needed to get done. And then just still working on that because I mean, my goal is to eventually go to medical school, and medical school is a lot more work than, undergrad, even, the grad classes I'm doing now is. So just making sure I can refine my time management skills as much as I can. I think it's just a constant process.
yeah, it's definitely an everyday, ongoing thing. I feel like even once you feel like you have it down, you've never truly mastered it because there'll be something else that also comes your way that you have to learn how to, adjust to. But how was that just going from Connecticut to New York? Obviously, it was definitely an adjustment and something that you had to learn and manage your time wisely. But once you kind of realize this is my schedule right now and this is how I have to adapt to it, how was the overall experience just growing up? That seems like it's very hectic, but also manageable once you get it down.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the story of, every chapter that I've been through is once I kind of get into, the flow of things, it definitely becomes more manageable. I had been doing that commute from when I was 4 years old, so I went to preschool in the city
Oh,
to 16, where I eventually went to prep school. So at the time, I didn't know anything different. That was kind of just, my commute was always this 2 hour commute each way, get on the bus, the train, everything, I have to do. And then I got to prep school and I was living on campus, and, my classes were just across the street. So I went from a 2 hour commute to a 5 minute commute. So, I was definitely ecstatic for that change. But um, yeah, I think like one thing I always think about is out of all my years during undergrad, one of I wouldn't say it was the most difficult, but it was definitely a change in terms of how I did my work was during COVID, because that was my sophomore year and I didn't have basketball, so we were practicing, all our basketball activities were shut down. So, I'd have class and finish around, in the afternoon and not have any other obligations to do besides, my homework, but I had, 10 or so hours to get that done. And I felt that I would honestly say I became probably the most lazy in that aspect, just because I had so much time, I didn't know what to do with it. I never, had that much time. It's usually okay. I only have this amount of time to do one thing because I have these things to do after. So I think it kind of gives me some type of balance and yeah, definitely a balance in my life just to have that schedule because it makes sure I stay on top of everything I need to, stay on top of.
Yeah, that's dedication right there as well. And just, I can tell that you definitely had it instilled in you and just have been keeping it on. It's never something that you just was like, okay, that was then, this is now, let's change it up. Like you're still able to keep up with your foundation and let it kind of grow within you. So that's really smart and a great way to look at life as well. So I again, like I said, I usually ask this question in the beginning, but the other topic seems so interesting that I had to weave this in later, which is totally fine because I was very interested
Yeah.
in your graduate school and undergrad and life experiences. But how did you fall in love with basketball? How did basketball start for you? Along with your upbringing, you said you commuted from Connecticut to New York. Basically, since you was 4 to 16, which is amazing. How did basketball fit in that equation as well? And then how did you just know that this is going to be my sport?
I don't know, I've always, thought about that because I played a bunch of sports growing up. It used to be for me, the fall was soccer season, winter would be basketball, and then spring would be, baseball. And as I got older, wasn't too good at baseball, so knocked that out. So it was basketball and soccer. And then honestly, it wasn't until my junior year of high school I stopped playing soccer because I kind of just got too tall for it.
Mm.
Um, but basketball was always, my number one, where even though, fall would be soccer season, I would still be playing some type of, fall ball somewhere, or even in the spring, where that would be, baseball season, I'd still be playing, travel basketball somewhere. So I always just gravitated more so to basketball than anything else. I couldn't, fully tell you why. I just, had more of an affinity to it, whether it was, playing in my driveway, playing in the hoop there. When I was really, really young, I had what's it called, a Fisher Price basket in the house that I used to
Yeah.
play on, and used to get all, the jerseys. I think my first jersey was a LeBron jersey, then, Dwayne Wade, just a bunch of different athletes. So I kind of just always stuck with it. But I would say the way I know like how much I love basketball is because I can't really, at least at this point, imagine what my life is without it.
Mm.
I think my love comes from it, or my love for it comes from, just not being able, just not understanding how to live without it. There's been, especially I think one of the most difficult times of my life, honestly, was when I got hurt my senior year of college and wasn't able to play for, at least 2 months before I could, even just take form shots. And that was really difficult, just not having that ability to be around basketball, play basketball. That's always been, a place of like, what's the word? Like meditation, even just, being on the court, taking shots and everything. That's always been a very, homely place for me. So, I don't know. It's just always been in my life in such a way that I can't really imagine life without it, at least right now.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, especially when you said that. Basically, what you said at the end, where if you can't imagine your life without it, or like the thought of it not being in your life kind of like makes you freak out, then that's how you know, okay, this is my, this is what I love, or this is something that
Yeah,
I love. It has to be a part of me in some kind of way, shape, or form. Wow.
exactly. I mean, even like my goal after I'm done playing is to become a doctor, but I want to, specialize in sports medicine so I can stay close to basketball. So
Yeah.
it'll still be there somewhere
Yes.
somehow.
So cross intercept some kind of way. I was just about to ask you about your post grad plans. So are you planning on going to medical school, or do you want to stay closer to home? Are you planning on travel? Have you started that process yet?
Yeah, so the immediate goal right now is to play overseas for a few years. So I'm in that process of figuring out what that's going to look like. Going through that whole process of where I want to play. I would like to play in Europe, but also just what opportunities are there for me. Do that for a few years and then, go to med school and then eventually, matriculate into hopefully an orthopedic residency and become an orthopedic surgeon. So that's what the goal is right now.
Wow, you have like your whole plan like mapped out. That is perfect. Oh my
I know. I
gosh.
mean,
I wish.
it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of my bad. I'm kind of already, I always kind of know what I wanted to do. Where
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to play basketball, and if I couldn't make the NBA, then I wanted to have some type of job that stayed close to sports. And when I was a little kid, I think second or third grade, I said I wanted to be like a team physician or like a sports doctor, so I could get free tickets to basketball games. So
Hey,
that's
that's
still in the
very
back of my mind right now. Exactly, so that's still definitely in the back of my mind. But I kind of have it a little bit more planned out right now.
yeah. It just grew a little bit, but that's still part of the answer.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's very fair, very valid. But I like that whole plan. That's very smart. Have everything set up so it would be nice if it can just go like in that nice linear way. But I know some way it's always gonna go exactly how it needs to be planned. So that's really exciting to look forward to.
Definitely. No, I would say, it is exciting just to, because I mean, that's what the plan is, but where, the specifics of it, where I end up is what makes it exciting. I never would have thought myself to even like earlier go to Columbia, then, go to Embry-Riddle and then end up at Howard. And then I'll don't even know where I'll be, next year or where I'll go to medical school and all that. But, the path is still the same. It's just,
Yeah.
what makes it unique is where, life takes you.
Exactly. It takes you all over the place. Yeah. You end up where you need to at the end, but the journey of it, I think, is definitely pretty fun to experience, especially when you look back and you're like, dang, like it really started like this.
Honestly, even I feel like just some of these questions just have me thinking back on, gosh, I had no idea like at that age that I'd end up here, just what any of that would look like at the time. But it is cool to just see how everything's, shaking out.
Yeah, it's a nice reflection moment for sure. I like to think about things like that too. So you minored in jazz, right? Jazz studies?
Yeah, yeah. I minored in jazz studies, so that came from I played piano, but I started playing piano when I was in first grade. I eventually started playing jazz piano, I think at the end of middle school.
Hmm.
When I went to prep school, I joined the jazz ensemble there, and that was an amazing experience. That's probably where my love for jazz and honestly music as a whole kind of blossomed.
Hmm.
When I was a junior, we took a trip with that ensemble to South Africa. We
Oh,
were able to play yeah, right. We were able to play in schools there, some jazz clubs, and just travel all around the country. And that experience and connecting with the people there, where some of them didn't speak English and we didn't speak their native language, but we were able to connect through music, and that was definitely powerful for me. And I've been able to take that feeling and just the connection that jazz brings me and music in general. And I was able to continue that at Columbia. And, every place I've gone to, I've been able to take a keyboard with me so I can continue playing. And, I would like to continue playing as, I grow older as well.
that's really neat how you mentioned that in South Africa, even though y'all didn't speak the same language, it was like that universal language of music that y'all could all just understand and
Exactly.
connect with. So that's really wow. That's it just shows you how powerful music is in our lives.
No, it definitely is. Definitely. Like for me, I always listen to music, before games, on road trips, going to classes, all that. So it's always, in my head or somewhere around me.
Yeah. What's your favorite genre before games and what song would you choose? Well, I guess like you said, on road trips and before games, what's your favorite song and why? And also what gets you hyped up for game time?
Oh gosh, I switch it up a lot. I mean, I feel like as a team, and most of the teams I've been on, we listen to rap music. So, that's always, very easy to get, you hyped up. But in terms of what I listen to on trips, it always varies. But there's one song, and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. I started this when I was I think a junior in high school, and me and my roommate found this song that we thought made, no real sense. And I just kept listening to it, and it became my pregame. I think I must have had probably a few good games listening to that song, so I just, stayed with it. It's
Yeah.
called Marsupial Superstars by Saw Baby.
Ooh.
And for whatever reason, uh, yeah, that's just turned into my pregame song. Whether it's the last song I listen to or just sometime before the game, that's the one song that has to stay, consistent on my playlist. I'll put a bunch of different other genres in there, but that's got to be there for me to have a good game.
It's like a ritual now, like a okay, this has to be there. Like it's my little like superstition.
Yeah,
But hey, if it works, it works.
exactly. I can't shake it, so it's gotta be there now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So your personality seems very fun and energetic. And I've even seen teammates say that you provide that on a team as well and off the court. What drives that personality, and how do you maintain it amongst your peers to kind of just drive the energy up and encourage others around you?
That's a good question.
Thank
Uh,
you.
let's see. I don't know. I think for me, that's just kind of always how I've been growing up. I'm very like positive with everything I do, especially I think with college basketball and how long the season is, the ups and downs with it. What I've learned, especially from my freshman year going on until now, it's very difficult to remain positive throughout the season because you're not always going to have a good practice. You're not always going to have a good game. That's just part of it. Even within life, you're not always going to have good days. There might be some difficult days. It's going to be up and down. But I think having that mentality and being positive. Sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. But I always felt like if I could be a person who spreads that positivity, or someone asks me how my day's going, even if it's not going the best, I'll still say great because that might leave a lasting effect on them.
Yeah.
That's always been kind of my MO. I'll always attribute it. One of the values I learned last year at Embry-Riddle was that in order to bring out the best in people, you have to love on them. And by that they meant you have to show your gratitude for people and just appreciate the people around you. And I think that goes hand in hand with being on a team where there's going to be those ups and downs. You might not always agree with your teammate, or you might get into arguments and everything, but it comes from a positive place. And if you can always show that positivity, spread it when it needs to be spread, then it makes life easier. I think that that definitely helps me within my life with all the things I'm trying to juggle between academics, athletics, and this, that, and the other. Where if I can take a step back and just show gratitude for all the great people around me, and all just the place where I'm at, where I would have never thought to be at Howard as a grad student playing basketball there. Um, just showing gratitude. I think that's where it comes from, and it just comes off in my spirit or whatever it is during games and practices, and just being around my teammates and friends.
Attitude of gratitude. I like that.
Definitely.
And you're right. A little bit of positivity and encouragement does go a long way, especially with the hectic schedule of athletes and what's going on in school and just in life in general. Just that little bit of positivity can really make someone's day, and you don't even realize how much you bless someone else with just your personality and just your energy, and you just never really know. So that's good to have that mindset going forward. If everybody had that mindset in the world, we'll have such a better place.
Honestly, like not everyone's gonna have their best day, but if you see everybody else around you having a good time, it kind of compels you, also to have that positivity as well. That's something my head coach, honestly, the whole coaching staff, here and even at Embry Riddle, which is kind of where I learned a lot of my values, at least from college and playing sports, was there would always be this sense of positivity around practice, regardless of whether we lost a game or we had won three straight. It would always be like this even keel of just achieving as much as you can during that day, and having a good time doing it. I remember the first practice, first or second practice, I came into. Riddle. It was over the summer, and I was really focused on setting the tone, being one of the older guys there, and being this transfer. I wanted kind of to honestly assert my dominance, and be that one of the top guys, and
Yes.
this, that, and the other. And
Yeah.
I was super focused, and my coach was like, "Kim, like, please smile. Like you're killing the whole vibe of everything. Like have a good time. This is practice. This is a gauntlet or anything. Just spread positivity. I definitely definitely loosened up after that. But no, that was just one of the things that stuck with me. But I was laughing after that probably for the rest of practice.
Yeah, no, that is funny. He's like, "Hey, look, loosen up a little bit, smile. Everybody's trying to enjoy themselves here. We're not going to war."
Exactly. There's enough,
Yeah,
difficulties with, running in practice and, academics and all that. You don't have to make it even more difficult on yourself. So that's kind of, the value I definitely took into this year as well. And that's kind of what one of the main values I would say I've taken from, college sports, and hopefully I can take it into my next chapters.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely hard. It's definitely really hard to keep a positive mindset even when things aren't going your way. But just having that mindset of, look, there's already enough going on. You having a bad attitude about it for an extended period of time and kind of killing the vibe is not going to help anything. So might as well just smile and look at the
Yeah.
bright side. There's always a bright side to everything.
No, it definitely is.
what um what is something about yourself that a lot of people don't know about?
Um, I don't know. I feel like we've covered a lot, honestly, to within this interview about guys. A lot of my, I guess, fun facts. Usually, it's like I play the piano because everyone expects me to say I play basketball.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know.
It's hard for me when someone asks me that. I'm
Uh,
like, that's not sure.
because I have like my go-tos, but
Yeah.
I've already, given you all the go-tos. I'm trying to think of something else.
Well,
Um,
how about and if you think of something, still like you can definitely say it. But what is your favorite song to play on the piano? And what was your first song that you learned how to play?
First song that I remember I knew how to play was I don't know if you know Linus and Lucy from
Yes,
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to play that for a recital, I think in first or second grade. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like one of those songs that I feel like no matter how long it's been since I played it, the muscle memory is just ingrained. That, and there's another song called Sunny by originally by Bobby Hebb, but the one I learned was by Oscar Peterson, who's this really good jazz pianist. Um, and that's another one that's just kind of ingrained that I love to play, solo on and everything. But uh, now, I mean, I feel like if I hear a song, on the, I guess not radio, but Spotify or something, and compels me, if I like the chords or something like that, I'll try to, play it and, emulate it and, create my own style on it as well. So that's something I've kind of picked up as, I've gotten better at playing piano too.
Yeah, that's really neat. I've always wanted to. I played guitar for a little bit, but I've always wanted to learn how to play the flute. And also, I think the violin and piano sounds really beautiful. So I wouldn't mind maybe at some point in time. I say this and then I never like followed through, but I wouldn't mind learning a few like songs just because I say I know how to do it. But that's really neat. Even I bet the Linus and Lucy song definitely creates like a nostalgic moment for you whenever you hear it or
Definitely
go back
does.
to it. That's so neat. So now we're almost down to our last question, but I have to ask, have you created a bracket for March Madness? By the time this comes out, it will be April, and so March Madness will be over. But right now, for the listeners who are listening to this in April, we are in March Madness, and yeah.
Oh yeah, I did. So I created one with some of my friends and not doing so well right now. I feel like because this year hasn't had that many upsets, I think I picked too many upsets. So the people who were a little bit more, conservative with their picks and, just had, all the best teams going, I think are probably doing the best right now. But I mean, it's still interesting. It's nice now that I've played basketball for so long. Honestly, with the transfer portal, there's been so many old teammates and people I played against who are playing on all these teams. So it's cool to see where some of my old friends and teammates are playing right now, and that some of them are, still in the tournament.
Yeah. Who do you have as your winner?
I had Alabama, so they're still in it right now. I forgot who they played against, but I would say Alabama, Auburn, or Duke look really, really good right now through these
Okay.
first two rounds, and
Yeah.
if I had a bet right now, I'd say one of those three teams would win it. But it's March Madness for a reason. So
Right.
now that I said that, probably some other team's gonna win.
Right. Like, all right. Glad you said that. Yeah, no, same. I put Florida for my main one. I created a group of me and my brothers and my dad. That's my main bracket group. But then I also have another group I'm in, and I put Duke for that one. And because I don't know, I think Cooper Flag's gonna do really well after that injury. He's been able to bounce back. So as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll be fine. But That one I say doesn't count because I guess it's technically cheating to have two different brackets and claim both of them. My brother says, but yeah,
No, that's when I was a kid. I used to have, I think, 10 or 15
oh
brackets. I just
gosh,
kept creating one for every single possibility I think would happen.
wait, I'm gonna win one of these ways. One of these are gonna win.
Right? One of these got away.
No, literally, I have
Exactly.
a friend who said she created seven. I was like, now look, you didn't.
I can't do it anymore because it's just you put in all that work and you think you're gonna get the right bracket and then
Yeah,
within that first day your bracket's already busted. So I just
exactly.
rather enjoy the games than be frustrated about, the picks I got wrong.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not doing too hot either, but hopefully that changes. But yeah, you're right. It definitely is exciting when you can just like watch it or kind of keep up with it, but not have to worry too much about how all the other brackets are doing. But
Yeah.
so
I
my
got
last
a fun fact for you, actually. I was
yes,
thinking
go for it.
about it.
Nice.
Um, it has to do with traveling. So my parents are both lawyers, international law. So when I was a kid, they used to go on mission to different countries and different places, and I used to go with them a lot. So I think I've been to, I don't know the exact number, but definitely over half the states. I think I've been to over 30 states
Wow.
and around 20 countries or so.
Wow.
So that's definitely been a great experience for me, and I think that's something that's given me a appreciation for culture. And also, my parents worked for the United Nations, and I went to the United Nations school in New York City. And growing up, I mean, my friends are from all across the world, and that also increased my appreciation for culture. And yeah, it's just been really interesting and a great experience to even within America. There's just so many different cultures there and so many different like geographic locations, like the Grand Canyon compared to the coast in Miami or California, or even the forest in Connecticut where I'm from. It's just also different, but also just different languages across the world and different places like that. So I wish, or I hope I'll be able to continue traveling as I get older.
Yeah, that's a very interesting fact. I'm glad you was thinking of one. What was your favorite state to visit and your favorite country to visit and why?
Favorite state? I don't know if I have one. I would say, I mean, a lot of the favorite states that I have are just because family live there, so it's always great to go there.
Okay.
Um, I want to give you like a good one that I have. Uh, Nashville. So
Mm,
my grandma's from Nashville, and when we still did this up until a few years ago, but we used to drive from Connecticut to Nashville at least once a year. So we go down from Connecticut to DC and then down to North Carolina, then drive across to Tennessee. And it was always really cool to see just the different landscapes through going from, the New Jersey Turnpike and kind of that mid-Atlantic area to all the plains in Virginia, and then the mountainous areas from Knoxville to Nashville. So that was really interesting. I like Nashville a lot. There's a lot of great culture. People are really nice there. It's also really warm there as well. California is really cool too.
mm.
Actually would like to go to med school somewhere in California when I get to that point in my life. So those are, I would say, two really interesting states. And then countries. Um, I honestly, my favorite one right now is Spain. So I first went when I was 8 with my dad, and then I went back for an internship there when I was a junior in college, and went again because we did an international trip with Embry Riddle when I was there. And after that, I was able to. So we played basketball when I was with Riddle, and actually played some basketball there when I was doing the internship. And after that, I kind of fell in love with the culture and everything. I would love to play there next year if I get that opportunity. I can speak Spanish pretty well, so I'd be able to, to get by and everything. But the food there is really good too. I was in Barcelona, so having the city life, but also the beaches there, it
Yeah.
was definitely a great experience. So I would say that's my favorite country right now.
Wow, I bet that was beautiful. That sounds like you're really well versed and you said bilingual, so you can yeah, you're definitely gonna have a great time traveling in the future, and hopefully you do get to play overseas in Spain. That would be definitely a great dream come true.
No, it definitely would be.
Wow. And you mentioned California, Nashville. For California, I remembered you said earlier that Stanford was actually a school that you wanted to go to. That actually was a school I wanted to go to too. I used to play volleyball and I used to like watching them and TCU play. And I think I just loved California so much, or the thought of California, that I was like, okay, but if I go to California, I want to do like an Ivy League school like Stanford or something. So I would like watch their games, record their games, and so I was like, okay, Stanford's the goal. And I don't think I ever applied to Stanford. But it's funny you mentioned that because it made me think back to, oh, yeah, I used to want to go to Stanford.
Did you ever visit the campus?
I never did. I kind of want to, though, now I'm
Campus
thinking
is
about it.
so beautiful. So
Really?
like honestly, it's a huge camp. I think it's the biggest campus in America. But there's like palm trees there. I think they have a mall on campus, something like
Wow.
that. So yeah, it's something else. One of my friends played volleyball at Columbia and actually did her grad year at Stanford.
Okay.
So that was really cool for her to do. But one of my old teammates from high school actually played basketball there too. So I've been keeping up with them, and I mean, it's a great, great place. And if I have an opportunity to go to med school there, I'll definitely take that opportunity.
Yeah, that would be a great opportunity. I kind of want to go, maybe on some kind of road trip, or somehow I need to go visit Stanford's campus. That you definitely sold it right there. I forgot all about that dream that I used to want to go there. Wow, yeah, that just made me think. Okay, huh? Okay.
It's cool. I mean, also, I mean, for me, all of my, I guess, not necessarily Los Angeles, but a lot of my California friends seem like really like laid back and not as stressed as, a lot of my friends from New York. So I think
Yeah, they're
that that
good
atmosphere
in
would suit me
California.
well as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, they're definitely really chill and, like you said, laid back and easy going in California. Have that nice, nice calm life. I need to go experience that.
Right.
So my last question for you is: if there is any advice that you would give to someone who has been through or will go through what you've been through, what will that be?
Um, I would say it's two things. Like, for me, the best part or the most important thing, I wouldn't say most important, but one of the important things would be don't forget what your end goal is. For me during the, difficult times, whether it's exam week or playoffs or difficult practices, whatever it has been, I have to keep reminding myself, what am I doing this for, who I'm doing it for, and what what my goal has always been. It's always been, play pro basketball and then become a doctor. So if this is, putting me in the best position to do those things, then, if these few days are going to be difficult, then they're going to be difficult because I have, great things ahead of me. So just not forgetting what that end goal is. And then at the same time, enjoying the process too. I've always talked about, being process oriented over results oriented because the results aren't always going to be there. But if you can have a great process, then it puts you in the best position possible to achieve those results. So that was something, especially during my last year of college basketball, just enjoying those moments with my teammates because that's something, I'm never going to get again. Enjoying my moments around campus and hanging out with students and hanging out with my teammates and just enjoying that college life because that's something that you won't have the opportunity to do so in the future. So just being very present as much as you can, but also like I said before, using those long-term goals to make sure you're still focused on what you want to do.
That mindset is definitely one that I think more people need to establish, and something that I'm constantly learning every day. Just like being in the moment and also enjoying the process. And you're right. Like after you're done with college, you're like, dang, well that's the end of that. So it's like just definitely enjoying the moment while you can, staying in the moment, still planning for your future, but enjoying the little moments that you have and the process of everything, getting to your results and getting to your end goal. So that's really nice.
Definitely, at least for me, keeps me less frustrated. Where, if you're focused on results, you're going to frustrate yourself all the time. Especially, at least for me, at least sports related for basketball. I take a lot of threes. When I was one of the shooters on the team, so there'd be some days where I'd start a game and start out, missing my first two or three, maybe four shots. And, if I just, pack my bags and just call it then, I'm not going to help my team out like that. So it's always going to be that next shot mentality. And if my shot feels good, then, I'm going to take the shot. So definitely having that process and not getting worked up over results, because if you trust the process, it's going to work out for you.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. Well put. Well said. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at CShocks, that's CSHOCKS 15. That's honestly, I think also you have Twitter as well, which is the same thing, CShocks 15. That's primary, I guess, social media I have. I'm not on social media too much, but I'll be there.
Nice. Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for coming up here talking to me. I really enjoyed listening to your story and different aspects of your story. It definitely was very interesting and inspiring. So thank you.
No, thanks for having me. These are some great questions, Mikaya. Thanks.